headmaster.
Yes.
What kind of changes were made in the schools where you were the boss?
Number one, it starts with the admissions process. So we made an admissions requirement list and we stuck to it, and we didn't let students in just to make more money. We selected students that fit our profile, that fit our culture, and so that's number one. And a lot of schools break down because they start letting anybody in so that they can have enough people and make more money. Well, we didn't do that. Another thing is we got rid of all debt. I started one school that had $500,000 in debt, and another one that had $1 million in debt, and we got rid of debt in both situations. And then thirdly, and probably the most, well, not probably, the most important thing in our decision that a headmaster can make is that you hire great teachers, or any leadership position in education. If you hire great teachers, you're going to be a good school. If you hire mediocre teachers and you pay them the least amount you can, you're going to be a mediocre school. So it's all about teaching. You know, it rises and falls on leadership. I understand that. But a great leader finds great people. And so then he releases them and gives them freedom to do what they were born to do and what they're gifted to do. And that, I felt like that was the most important thing I did. And I organized. I've always liked organizing things. I used to clean my dad's garage, and I used to have my bedroom very clean. Everything I did was meticulous. And so I kind of ran a school like that. We organized it in a way where it would make sense. And we also paid back all our debtors and we asked for forgiveness for being late the years before I took over. So we just tried to do things right.
I thought it was interesting, like when you were interviewing a kid and his family, or a prospective student and his family, that you would study the student and look at. Would you tell a little bit about that? Yes,
we had a couple of pages they had to fill out. They had to write their testimony. They had to tell their discipline, if they had discipline problems at the previous school. We'd interview the student and ask him why he even wanted to come to our school. And I don't use the word weeding out because that sounds like a little harsh. What we really did is we picked people that we felt like they would either fit and form our culture, or they would conform to our culture. And so that's what you did. If you let in if you're a Christian private school or a private school of any type, and you let in people that don't fit your culture for the wrong motives, it's going to destroy your school in the long run. I've seen many schools close or go downhill because of their admissions process. So we were very careful. If a student acted like he didn't want to come, we didn't allow him to come. So we had to know that they wanted to come and that they fully understood who we were. And their testimonies told us a lot about them.
Did education ever get you down?
Oh yeah, just like in any profession. I don't claim to be a martyr or anything, but yeah, probably the toughest situations were not with parents, because I felt like I could always get along with parents and I could get along with students. In my 35 years, I've hardly ever had discipline problems with students. In fact, I've enjoyed being around them. The problems come when you get either the board starts micromanaging in private schools, or some of the people you hire turn sour and they start backbiting, and that can destroy a school. And it did destroy that. Those are the things that were toughest, is when there was a lack of loyalty after I felt like we had bent over backwards to be loyal. And I'm not going to name any schools or any individuals, but the lack of loyalty is what brought me down the most. And there were times, and I guess the other thing is the debt that I've spoken about already. When you owe $500,000 and you're trying to run a school, there were many days where I had to close my door, turn off my lights, tell the secretary to not let anybody in, and just put my head on my desk and beg God to help us. And he did. I mean, there's no way we were going to get rid of that $1 million debt. And there's no way we were going to get rid of the $500,000 debt. But God always provided a way. And one thing that this brought another thought to my mind. I've heard that when God wants you to be somewhere, the way he'll show you is good things start happening around you. So whenever I became headmaster, there were weird things that happened that were good, that were out of the blue, and just helped me along the way because I was new to the position, and God had to take me each step along the way, and so it was definitely God stepping in when I needed to make a move. And I had to make some tough moves. That would be another thing that brought me down at times. I had to fire some good people or release some good people. People that I loved, people that I enjoyed a close friendship with.
Because you were in debt?
Because of debt. Mostly because of debt. Sometimes because they just didn't fit the position. And I always tried to fit the giftings and the temperament to the position.
So what are the perks, the good upside of being an educator, administrator?
Oh, you realize that what you're doing is important. Could be one of the most important things on earth is what we do with young people. And so whether I was headmaster or coach or English teacher or whatever position I was filling at the time, I felt like I could influence teenagers. And I will tell you this about my personality. I have a hard time getting really close to people. And that was, again, one of the things that bothered me during my tenure in education is that I love the kids and I feel like they respected me, but I never really felt that close to them unless I was actually coaching them or teaching them. But as an administrator, I didn't feel the closeness. So, but I still feel like I had an effect on them for good. So that was the main thing. And I'm glad God allowed me to do that.
Did you ever exercise corporal punishment while you were
Well, we started out in 1980. In public school, you could give what we call licks. And so I only remember 2 times that I gave licks. And on one of them was in either my first or second year. I hit a guy too low on his legs. And when he put his gym shorts on, the red welt showed on his legs. So I thought, I'm going to lose my job in the second year of teaching. And then later on, several years later, I had to give a high school student licks. I didn't give a lot of licks. I felt like I could discipline them and build a relationship without giving licks. I'll tell you, I think you need to know this about my teaching career. My first year, I started off in a public school, in a middle school, and they were still dealing with the concept, or utilizing the concept of the open classroom concept, which was one of the worst things that ever propagated, I guess is the word, on society. What you did is basically you had 4 groups of students, 25 to 30 students, in each corner of a large room, and the only thing dividing those 4 was a small bookshelf that was like an X in the middle of all 4. So basically my first year I taught with 2 and 1 lady that was extremely nice. but she couldn't really, she was not a strong personality, and she couldn't really go against the other two, but they made my life a living heck. And I think, you know, here I am, this new teacher. I'm nervous. I'm not sure of my teaching ability. I know I have a lot of things to learn, and yet I have two people that are after me on a daily basis. And to tell you the truth, I almost got out of education after 1 year because of two people. And one thing looking back, my principal could have stepped in and made that better, and he didn't. He knew it was happening. He even mentioned it to me that they were out to get me, and yet he never did anything about it. And I thought highly of him as a principal as I came into the school, but over the 2 years I thought less and less of him, because I would never have allowed two teachers to treat another teacher like that. And in all my years in education and leadership, that I had opportunity to bring in new teachers, and I guarantee you they were always treated well. And I would put a mentor with each new teacher that came in. They never gave me a mentor or anything kind of help. I was coaching year-round, plus grading all the papers, because these two ladies that were head of the English department believed in grading every single paper. Well, they weren't coaching. They were going home at 4 o'clock. I was going home at 7 or 7:30 and grading papers till midnight. And so my first 2 years were so bad that I thought, God, if you don't do something, I'm getting out of education. And he did.
Have you ever had a turnaround kid in school? Someone that you didn't think would make it but did? And you have any success stories to tell?
Well, the one I like to think about is I had a basketball player that was in my English class my third year teaching and coaching. And I told him, I said, you ought to go out for basketball. I think you'd be really good at it. Well, the school was a middle school or a high school, and it was going to close down at the end of the year and become a middle school. But I later learned that this guy moved to another high school, and he started his senior year on the basketball team. And so I felt really good about that. But I feel like I've turned around, or I've helped turn around a lot of kids, because I've always kind of been a champion of the underdog. Because of the way I was raised and the things I went through, I had a real sensitivity to kids who were struggling. And so I always enjoyed being around the kids that didn't feel good about themselves, or they had a bad home life, or whatever, maybe they weren't as smart. I loved helping kids like that. So I feel like I got a lot of positive feedback about how I treated kids and made them feel. I'm a born exhorter. That's one of my spiritual gifts, is I love to exhort. And I think that fit in with the fact that I love helping kids that struggled. And because of that, bullying, I was highly sensitive to bullying. And I would not even, they knew how I felt about it. And I never had a problem with bullying, because I simply wasn't going to put up with it. And anybody that allows bullying should get out of education.